Alright guys, so we're checking out another micro Cinewhoop here. This is the HGLRC Sector25CR. This is basically an updated version of the Sector 132 that I reviewed maybe like a year ago. That one came with like a 4K camera, the HGLRC pre-built in there. And at the time they didn't have DJI versions. They do now. So this comes in a analog version, which you see here, and also a DJI version with the Vista. Keep in mind that the DJI version with the Vista, because the Vista is mounted here in the center stack, they're using the all-in-one, the Zeus all-in-one board instead of a separate flight controller and ESC stack they're using here in the analog version. So keep that in mind. And of course, I haven't flown that, so I can tell you that the weight difference is about 15 grams, I think, something like that. Check the product description. This here's a prototype, so they might be making some changes to this one. I already know of one change that they've already made on the 1404 motors. They sent this out with 4800 kVs. So these 1404 motors from HGLRC come in a variety of kVs. I think 3600, 4800, and something higher, 5600, I think. So the 4800 is basically meant for 3S if you're flying this on 3S, or you can do 4S with a motor output limit. They opted to go for more flight time on the production versions. So the one that is actually in production that customers will be getting has the 3600 kV version, or 3600 kV motor. So you'll fly that on 4S and you'll get a little bit more flight time, maybe like a minute more than I got on 3S. But I don't think they changed the frame much at all here. You know, I've been kind of harping on all the manufacturers to switch away from the 1106 motors to something bigger and with a lower stator, like 1304. I think that's what I was kind of saying way back when the 1106 was super popular. And they've opted to go with the 1404 instead of the 1304. So pretty close. It's a bigger motor. The stator volume is a little bit less than the 1106. So what you're giving up is top end power. So you know, if you try and drag race this, you're not going to like it. You're going to like the 1106 motor version better. But if you're flying this as a Cinewhoop, where you're kind of like flying more slower, want more control, the 1404 motor is better than the 1106 motor, in my opinion. And so all the manufacturers are now updating their models, going from the either 1106 or 1204 type motor to a bigger 1404 motor. I think even the HGLRC Synolog, they have also updated their motor from 1204s to 1404s just recently. I just learned that today, in fact. So, yeah, you know, it's kind of funny. I think I was kind of complaining about 1106 motors back like a year ago when all these were coming out with 1106 motors. I didn't like it. Didn't like the way it felt. And everyone was like, well, you know, you're wrong. 1106 motors are better. Why are all these 1404 motor versions coming out now? I don't know. Maybe they're just looking to sell something new and different. Anyway, I'll link the video to the Sector 132 down below. You know, it's not a whole lot more here to say about this one. It's a single bottom frame, so not individual arms to keep the weight down. I do have individual prop guards. So in terms of maintainability, in terms of like maintenance, if you're going to be crashing a lot, or maybe if you damage a prop guard, you just want to change one prop guard, this sort of a setup here is going to be more advantageous versus something with a unibody or like a single uniframe, like HOM FPV or the 95XV3 or the Pavo 30. Any of those, like with basically a plastic frame that's a single piece. If you damage the prop guard or the frame or it breaks and you need to replace it, you have to take the whole drone apart. And that could be very daunting for a first-timer or a beginner. So if you're looking for something a little bit more maintainable, if you happen to crash and break something, this model is going to be better for you, because if you crash it, break a prop guard, these prop guards are very easily replaceable. I believe you'll get a couple of spares in the set, and they're also pretty cheap to replace. A couple dollars, I think, for each one of these. You can buy extras if you need them. And all you have to do is just remove the 4 screws here for the motor, pop it off, pop out a new one, and just put the screws back in, and you're good to go. Very unlikely you'll break this frame. I think it's either 2.5 millimeters or 3 millimeters thick. you're going to have to be flying super high up and going super fast and causing a lot of damage to crack this frame. But of course, if that happens, then you'll have to take the whole drone apart. But pretty unlikely at Cinewhoop speeds, especially if you can be flying this indoors, which is what I recommend for something of this size. This is mainly for indoors, like, you know, real estate shooting, you know, like houses, that kind of stuff, you know, indoor spaces. You can fly it outdoors. I did fly it outdoors, as you see in the video demo, but the wind does get kind of pushes it around a little bit. This is a little bit heavier than the 95XB3, some of the other ones with the single unibody frame. But if you're looking for something with a little bit more maintainability, this one's probably going to be better for you guys. All right, so this is how much it weighs. This is just the drone itself with a naked GoPro mount. This is 155 grams. So this the mount they're using here is basically the same as the one in the ProTech 35, and so I'm using the camera mount here from a ProTech 35 style mount from iFlight. They're going with that one with the M3 screw. So it seems to be pretty decent. So then this plus the naked GoPro and the 3S1100 battery that I used, now we're coming in at 249.1 grams, so just under 250 grams, all up weight here with the battery and everything. So you'll be just fine in terms of the regulations. And you probably want to go with something like a 3S1100. You get the most flight time you're gonna probably in this setup here, like around, I think around 4 minutes. Anyway, so as I said, this is a prototype. They have already changed the motors. I'm not exactly sure if they're going to go with the all-in-one stack for the analog version or not. I haven't checked that lately, but I think the analog version is going to come with a two board stack instead of the single stack or single board stack for the DJI version. So obviously the DJI version is going to be totally different. There's also a 3-inch version of this called the Sector25CR. I'm hoping I'll get that later. I want to get the DJI version of that one because I did test the Sector 150 was what it was called previously with the 1507 motors. So they are also going with the wider stator with a shorter wider stator, basically 2004 motors on the 3-inch version, which is exactly what I think everyone should be going with for these 3-inch Cinewhoops. Actually that's a pretty big trend. I think all of them are switching away from the taller, narrower stator where you get like lots of top-end power. But now people know that the people that actually want to buy these and actually use them for something like cinewhooping, they're not racing them around, so they don't really need 1507 or these giant motors for racing, because these aren't really meant for racing in my opinion. And if you want to be doing racing, you ought to be getting something other than something latest with prop guards. That's my opinion on that one. Anyway, here's the flight footage on this. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.